Have you ever wondered where Cuban cigars come from? That's right, Cuba. Sitting off the coast of Florida, Cuba is home to over 11 million people. Though the country has had a long history filled with revolutions and communist rule, it has definitely found a way to develop such a rich and unique culture. With many places to visit, Cuba has definitely become a tourist spot for those who want to take a dive or a peek into a place that seems so close yet so far. Traveling the world is on everybody's bucket list, and I'm sure it's on yours as well. And today I plan to add one more spot to that list, and it's a place that means the world to me. Being able to go there for a little bit a couple years back has truly been the best experience of my life, and one that I don't think I'll ever take for granted. With such a unique culture just a plane flight away, I hope that I'm able to inform you guys a little bit about what Cuban culture is all about. And I plan to do this by describing first its economic struggles, its rich culture, and three, just name a few tourist spots that I think you guys should think about if you guys ever plan on visiting Cuba. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Cuba's economic struggles and its rise in poverty. Fidel Castro, Cuba's former communist dictator, essentially left the Cuban economy in economic despair. And according to Forbes, he essentially strangled the Cuban economy, and he left his people to struggle finding good food to eat or even find stable living conditions. And according to the Miami Herald, average annual income of a Cuban household is only $18.66 US dollars a month. So the second thing I want to talk about is, on a much positive note, is why I believe Cuba has developed such a rich and unique culture. From my experience, I think it's all about it's because Cubans are able to find joy in things such as art, music, and sports, specifically baseball. So the first thing we're going to talk about is music and dance. I've always seen it when I was there as an outlet for, Cubans after a stressful day at work. It's influenced by Spanish and African culture, and it's become essentially a nationwide glue that allows everybody from all economic statuses to come together to enjoy something that everybody can just enjoy. And we can see how much of a positive impact this has had by outputting big acts such as famous salsa dancer Celia Cruz and worldwide pop star Pitbull. And then the third thing I want to talk about, the second thing I want to talk about is sports. Although I was able to play soccer with the kids on local plazas and big soccer fields, I truly think baseball takes the cake in terms of representing and showing what Cuba culture is all about. I see kids of all age playing it, both young and old, and if you're good, you're pretty much seen as a hero in Cuba. And we've seen major talent come out of Cuba and play in the major leagues, such as Yasiel Puig of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the last thing I want to talk about is Cuban cuisine. It's influenced again by Spanish, African, and Caribbean cultures. And it consists primarily, from what I could tell, chicken, pork, rice, and beans. But for the most part, due to poor economic conditions, Cuba's cuisine typically revolves around agriculture. It's a much cheaper way to feed the masses, essentially. And just a side note, Cuba's famous coffee is one of their biggest exports in Cuban economy. So the last thing I want to talk about is a couple tourist locations. The first spot, with the help of an online source, Guardian, I plan to tell you guys about 3 spots that I think you guys should keep on your list. The first spot that I think you guys should definitely visit is Old Havana. It's pretty much Cuba's downtown spot and has the second largest population in the country. This is where you'll find the vintage collection cars seen in pictures all the time. You'll see the old houses, and you'll see one of the most famous plazas called Plaza Vieja, where I was able to play, soccer with the local kids, buy Cuban cigars, and listen to, music. The second spot that I think you guys should visit is definitely what they call the Large City Plaza, and this is where Fidel Castro would actually speak to the Cuban people. There's a Jose Marti Memorial, who is actually Cuba's national hero, essentially. This is pretty much where tourists would learn the foundation and the history of Cuba, both economically and just where it's come from and now where it is. So yeah, essentially, once again, I think Cuba is a country that is so relatable yet so different from everyday life in America. And I hope that with this presentation I was able to take you guys with me on pretty much a dive into what Cuba life is all about by describing its economic struggles, its rich culture, and just naming a couple tourist spots that I hope you guys can visit if you guys ever choose to go to Cuba. My experience in Cuba has pretty much changed my life. It was an experience that I will never take for granted, and one that I wouldn't want any other way. And with that said, with the place that means so much to me, I hope you guys will find a place that means the world to you as well. So I thank you guys.